Now, one thing to keep in mind is that if you have a job description, and if, let's say we're using the example, a licensed practical nurse. Well, nursing is a very highly regulated, licensed profession, which means that most employers that are hiring LPNs, the very first thing they're going to be looking for is whether the person has completed a LPN degree and if they're licensed and so forth. So in that case, I would put the education near the top of the resume because I wouldn't want to risk the employer excluding me from further consideration because I put the education at the bottom where they didn't see it within that 15-second of time that they give to reviewing the resume. So if the job description lists the qualifications, for example, if they list required qualifications and then preferred qualifications, which is a very common way to list a job posting, then I would use that as my gauge in terms of the order or the way I list the information on the resume itself. So generally speaking, the things that are most relevant, that are most critical or required of the job should be on the top half of the resume if you have a one-page resume, and the things that are preferred or maybe not as critical can be on the bottom half of the resume. But we've got some examples of the education here again and how it would be listed on the resume, referring to the slide on the PowerPoint presentation. An associate's or AB degree in administrative office management from Lansing Community College and the year it graduated. The high school diploma. You could actually remove the high school education from your resume altogether once you earn a college level degree or certificate, because it's assumed really at that point that you, if you've got a college level degree or certificate, that you've at least completed high school. So as your resume evolves over time and as you add to it and get more experience, there are going to be some things that you will need to remove, and the high school education is one of them. So we've kind of broken down the resume section by section in detail. The resume writing handout that you'll be able to download will also speak in more detail specifically to the functional format and just kind of re-emphasize, reinforce a lot of the things that I've been talking about so far in terms of what makes the functional format. Now, moving on to editing content rather, as far as just kind of doing a last overview and making sure that the presentation looks good and professional. You'll certainly want to look this over yourself, but you may want to have a friend or a classmate also take a look at the resume for you. And keep in mind that I also meet with students in the Center for Employment Services here on campus to review resumes, provide feedback. So you're always welcome to make an appointment with me by calling our office or stopping by and visiting us in Gannon, room 218 here on campus. But what I'm basically looking for when I'm editing content is to, first of all, determine if all the entries are supportive of the objective, and that's why the objective is so critical. Again, as I was saying earlier, it provides the identity for the resume, and everything that you're then supporting or putting out through the body of the resume should support that objective. You certainly want to use action verbs to start your accomplishment statements, whether it's a chronological format, a combination format, a functional format. Action verbs are essential. And another document that you'll be able to download is Hinda's list of action verbs, and that contains a nice list of verbs categorized by various skills. So if I'm trying to capture a statement that demonstrates how I communicate, whether it's written communication, verbal communication, interpersonal, then you're probably wise to choose a verb from the communication/people skills category on Hinda's list. And in particular, you'll notice at the top of that document that the verbs that are underlined are the ones that help us to maybe communicate the accomplishments a little more effectively. Some other things that you'll want to pay attention to as you're editing content is to limit jargon or abbreviations. Again, it's important obviously to emphasize both soft and hard skills. You want to be concise. Make sure that your statements again start with a verb and are accomplishment outcome oriented and are measurable. You want to avoid using the word I or me. Certainly you want to spell check the resume, but you also want to proofread it, because as you know, many of you, if you just use a spell checker on Word, doesn't mean it's going to catch poor grammar, things of that nature. And again, the length, generally for new career professionals, recent college graduates, one length is sufficient, because again, you need to ask yourself, do I really have enough relevant experience, relevant skills and abilities to warrant more than one page? The layout and its presentation, well, obviously you want to put your name and address at the top using a larger font for your name, because you want to make sure that stands out for the reviewer to see, you know, your name very clearly. They probably have a pile of resumes on their desk with maybe 200, 300 other applicants, so they'll be able to catch their eye effectively. You want to place your section titles in a column on the left, like James Madison's case, our example resume. You'll want to certainly use boldface type key information to add in the scanning. Now, when we talk about scanning, I'm talking about scannability to the eye. Because remember earlier I was talking about the average amount of time that a reviewer gives to a resume is about 10 to 15 seconds. So unless they're a speed reader, that means they are not going to be reading the resume word for word. They're going to be scanning it with their eyes for key words, key skills, key information, dates, and so forth. Bullets for your accomplishment statements. Again, you don't want to jumble the sentences together in one big paragraph, but bullets are a really nice way to kind of set those statements apart underneath each heading, and making sure you have a fair amount of white space for a clean look.